Welcome, everyone. Thank you for attending today's session. My name is Sonia Franceschini, and I work for a consulting firm that represents the National Sunflower Association in Canada. I'm thrilled to have Michelle Peitz here. Michelle is the Oils Technical Solutions Manager at ADM. She's here to speak to you about creating alternative food and beverage products with sunflower oil. In this session, Michelle will share some of the latest consumer trend data, as well as information on formulating non-dairy beverages, plant-based foods, and vegan and bakery snack foods. So feel free to ask questions throughout the presentation, and I'll hand it over to Michelle.
Thank you, Sonia. Thanks, everybody, for joining us for the second session. I was telling them I can't make you promises if the first one or the second one's going to be better, so we'll see how it rolls. But I enjoy any opportunity to converse with you throughout the presentation. So if something pops in your mind, happy to have that conversation then and there. So I am with ADM, but I'm here on behalf of the National Sunflower Association. The National Sunflower Association is based in North Dakota, and it's a non-for-profit that represents farmer producers, manufacturers, and processors of sun products and exporters, from oil to kernels and sunflower seeds. And they work with market development, research, and production promotions. They are also, why we are here today is because Canada is the #1 export market of premium US grown sunflower oil. So as we're talking about sunflowers, a lot of times the questions come in, what's the crop look like? I was talking to a colleague based in North Dakota just a couple weeks ago, and he used the word excellent. So that's very exciting as a processor of sunflowers, right? But it's still in the ground. So harvest is coming up in the next couple of weeks. And so the next couple of weeks are critical, especially in North Dakota. It's starting to get cold. It could snow there. So these are the things that we start to watch out for around this time of year as we cheer for the farmers that are taking the crop out of the fields. So here I am today to talk to you about how sunflower oil fits within the alternative market space. As a food scientist that have worked widely with product developers over the years, oil has to work in the application, right? Functionality is key to provide a successful product, but a lot of times it has to do with what consumers are looking for in the product. And in the marketplace, there was a poll done, an omnibus poll done in 2021, looking at how consumers, especially in Canada, are perceiving sunflower oil. So 81% of the respondents to the poll said that they believe sunflower oil is a healthy oil, which fits really well as we talk about what this market category is looking for. And then 75% of Canadians responded that they are interested in purchasing sunflower or products made with sunflower oil. So as we go farther into the alternative market space, there was a poll or a survey done by ADM in 2021, just about a year ago, looking at how consumers are identifying. And so 59% of global consumers, this is a global poll, self-identify as following a plant-based lifestyle. But there are several different types of plant-based lifestyles, right? So the most and widest self-identifying is flexitarians. So those that are introducing more plant-based options in their diet, but are not solely focused on plant-based options. And then we also have vegetarians and vegans making up that 59%. So as we think about more of this broader group of the flexitarian in the marketplace, flexitarians are focused on the positives more than the negatives. They are trying to eat more plant-based foods, but still will include other animal-based products in their diet. So 56% globally and 59% in the US. So then we will talk about, as sunflower fits into this, why it fits into these perceived notions of eating more positive attributes. So as we think about sunflower oil and its functional attributes to product developers and manufacturers of food products, one of the main topics of conversation that I have is that it is a very oxidatively stable oil. It has the highest oleic content of commercially viable oils. So there are a couple of different varieties of sunflower oil. In North America, there's mid-oleic and high oleic. High oleic is usually 80% or greater of oleic acid, which is your C18-1 or monounsaturated fatty acids. Along with this fatty acid profile, it is less than 1% linolenic acid. So that's a polyunsaturated that's more prone to oxidation. And so by balancing out this fatty acid profile, high in oleic, low in linolenic acid, you have a very suitable, stable fatty acid profile for products where you're targeting high stress processing conditions and longer shelf life. The other great thing about sunflower oil is it responds very well to antioxidants. All oils and antioxidant responses are not the same, but sunflower works really well with the natural antioxidants, such as mixed tocopherols and natural rosemary extracts. So you can take an already super stable oil, utilize an antioxidant, and really push the envelope on oil oxidative stability. The other factor, especially in this space that often gets talked about, is allergenicity and being allergen friendly. And so I often am talking about fully refined vegetable oils. Fully refined vegetable oils have been processed so that there's not any proteinaceous material, so it's generally not an allergen concern. But it goes on to the fact of what consumers recognize and know for that. While something, say, like soybean oil, doesn't have to be labeled as an allergen if it's highly refined, consumers don't recognize that and are not associating that. They see the word soy and, oh no. Whereas sunflower, consumers have this friendly connotation of not being an allergen. So with that, it fits with clean labels. Other clean label attributes that sunflower oil has going for it is that all varieties of sunflower are non-GMO. There has not been any bioengineering introduced into that seed stream. So when we talk about things like middle oleic sun and high oleic sun, all of this has been done through traditional breeding techniques throughout the last many years. Also, sunflower oil is a high oil containing seed crop. So it is 40 to 45% oil in the kernel. And so because of this, it is easily processed as an expeller pressed option. So it lends itself to those claims as you're looking for consumers that want something that is solvent-free content. Also, as we talked about, it's high in monounsaturated fatty acids. And monounsaturated fatty acids, if you look at the World Health Organization and other health organizations out there, they tend to speak to including more unsaturated fatty acids in your diet. And there's these health connotations with other oils that have high containing monounsaturated fatty acids. And also it's neutral in taste. So especially as a developer, as you're looking at developing a product and getting these other flavors in that, you don't want your oil taking over or having to mask something that comes from the oil. So having a neutral oil system makes your life easier. So we did another survey back in 2019 specific to sunflower oil, and we were asking consumers, why are you choosing sunflower oil? And this was very much a consumer questionnaire. So these were non-technical people responding, but understanding those consumer perceptions of sunflower oil. And we have a gentleman, 40 years old, that's choosing sunflower oil because he has this connotation with it being more natural and higher in nutrients. And it actually believes to make his meals taste better when they're prepared with oil or sunflower oil. Another male says it's very neutral in flavor, and that's why he's choosing it overall. And another respondent speaks to the health connotations they have by choosing sunflower oil. As we move into application spaces, especially in the alternative space, one that's very widely known and there's a lot of experience with is the beverage or milk alternative space. So this, we are looking at an oil and water type emulsion. You're building in fat into these systems to give yourself body and mouthfeel, especially if you think about that flexitarian consumer. They know what they're expecting from milk. They're comparing you against that. And so having something that's water thin versus something with some body to it, especially that fat provides, can really be beneficial to that overall consumer enjoyment. Also, there's an association with a lot of vitamin, fat-soluble vitamins that come along, so that having a fat phase in there can be beneficial for nutrition. And you're utilizing, once again, a monounsaturated fatty acid to build in that nutrition. As we talk about processing, a lot of these types of beverages go through homogenation. There's high heat, there's shear. A lot of times you need some shelf life to it. So high oleic sun is one that's been used widely in this market space because it has those functional attributes that really lend itself. And once again, it's neutral in flavor. So you're not getting those oily notes that you have to modify with flavors or other maskers. As we think about the dairy space, especially in the US, it is the largest Western market for milk alternatives, and it's fairly well established. It's compared to other alternative spaces. Some more of the ADM consumer research data that was done, we were talking about nutritional, like consumers recognize sunflower oil as being, having some nutritional qualities and making that association. And really when we're looking at the dairy alternative market, those top motivations for including those in your diet include health benefits and nutritional benefits. Here's some global information from that. Same with the meat alternatives as we transition into talking about meat alternatives and how sunflower oil can fit. They're really looking at including it in their lifestyles because they are connecting it with being better for their overall well-being. So as we talk about different alternative spaces, sunflower oil also works very well in the alternative protein space. Being at ADM, there's a lot of conversations about proteins, right? I like to focus on the fats side of things, right? So when you are looking at these alternative protein spaces and alternative meat type products, you still have to replace the fats in there too, right? And it's going to be a vegetable sourced fat. Depending on the type of style of alternative protein product, sunflower oil can be used alone for some types of products. So if you're not looking for that visual appeal of solid fat systems, sunflower oil can still be a great solution into protein matrices or even as a cooking medium. So if you think about a frying oil that's going to help set the breading and give the browning attributes to, say, like a chicken-like tender product, sunflower oil can fit really well in this type of application because, once again, it has a lot of heat stability that its inherent fatty acid profile provides. And so that you get that stability in the fryer, especially when you have a lot of moisture, batters, and breadings, like that can really tear up your oil over time. So utilizing a high stability oil can have benefits in the production operations there. In a different type of system, say like a patty system, usually it's a systems approach. So you have a solid fat that helps provide those visual appeals that consumers are recognizing as being a fat in those systems, but then there's usually liquid oil built in. So it's maybe not sunflower alone that gets you to your solution, but sunflower in combination to a solid fat system that can really provide eating characteristics, stability, and that neutral flavor profile overall. Also, fat is a great flavor carrier. So if you think about including various forms of flavor in your systems, you can do the oil soluble, water soluble. So that's another thing that shouldn't be overlooked. And then let's finally touch on some grain-based snacks. So you have a couple different technical needs when you think about grain-based snacks. And sunflower oil can really play a part of stabilizing these systems as well. So if you think about a lot of grains, they have these inherent oils in them too. And so that most of them tend to be more towards the polyunsaturated and can be oxidatively unstable. So by including a high stability oil like high oleic sun, you can help balance and protect the grains in a system. You can add eating characteristics to it, so some of that lubricity that is often utilized in snack bars and crackers to give desired eating characteristics. And we talked about antioxidants earlier in the presentation. Oil's a great carrier, so you can protect the oil by having antioxidant, but you can also utilize the oil as a carrier to help protect some of those grains in your snack system too, that can in turn benefit shelf life overall. So, in summary today, I hope you will consider as your next formulation, considering sunflower oil as one of the solutions that can really benefit both the functionality needs as well as consumer needs in these types of products. So, for questions, or I can take questions now, but if you need more information, Chris Gould is also with the Harbinger Communications, and she supports Canadian sunflower products, or you can visit the National Sunflower Association's website sunflowernsa.com. Any questions for me? Okay. Yes, wait, you have to get the microphone. For recording purposes. Thank you.
Thanks for that. I learned some interesting tidbits. I was really curious to hear a little bit more about how you are emulsifying and adding sunflower oil to these dairy alternative products. And I was just wondering, have you had more success in certain types, like for instance, things that are very cold, like ice cream, or you mentioned milk, but anyways, I'd just love to hear a little bit more about that. Any use cases or actual testing that you've done? Because it's
dairy
kind
is a wide category, right?
It's a huge category, exactly, and it's anyways, I'd love to hear a little more.
Yes. So typically sunflower oil is being utilized more in the beverage style alternative spaces. If you think about a frozen dessert, ice cream-esque, if you want to refer to it, solids tend to benefit that to a certain degree, right? That category has tended to use coconut widely. That's what I did. But the thing, if you're doing a hard pack ice cream, coconut out of the freezer is super hard. So scooping becomes a challenge, right? And so looking at a systems approach is at times balancing out the solids in coconut oil and the nutritional. There's a lot of saturates in coconut oil, more so than your animal alternatives. So it becomes this nutritional labeling thing and what consumers are looking for becomes challenging. So there is some consideration of doing a blended approach. So maybe that is a coconut with sunflower to give some of those solids for mouthfeel and eating characteristics, but balancing out some of those nutritional profiles to get you more on the even playing field.
Yeah, I don't know. Are you from the U.S.?
I am from the U.S., yeah.
So one thing you might not realize is that here in Canada, we have the Dairy Act,
which is very strict about, thank you.
Oh, yes, the mic.
I'm loud. Anyhow, we have the Dairy Act, which is very strict about formulation and about where you can formulate. And I learned that by adding coconut milk to regular dairy products, I was able to get around some of the quota issues that make some dairy products very, very expensive in Canada. And I was able to not necessarily, I mean, obviously, it was still a food safe facility, but it didn't have to be a certified and condoned dairy facility. So there's, even for the traditional dairy products here in Canada, for formulators who are now adding up to like 2% coconut oil, there's a potential opportunity too. So I just point that out in case it's...
So you're talking extension more of replacement?
Well, it's an extension, but an extension to give a smaller producer more flexibility and use different co-packers, I guess, truthfully.
Gotcha.
So long story short is in Canada, there's a particular benefit to what you're doing I just thought you might not be aware of, and that maybe people in the room who haven't read the whole Dairy Act might benefit from knowing about. So all your dairy questions can come here.
They are awesome. But yeah, and things like cheese and stuff, it becomes more challenging too, because solids help with melt profile. So sunflower in a system, again, for cheese alternative products can work, but it's not necessarily always can be 100% because you need some melt solid fat. Yep. So yes, the dairy in Canada, you're right. I'm not well versed in that one. So thank you. There are other rules, those nuances, even when you go into the States, it's definitely not universals for sure. So checking all the rules and regulations, that's your lesson. Other questions? Excellent. Well, thank you for that. And thanks for joining us today.